Welcome back, everybody. Today, we're going to be diving into this blog post, and it's got a little bit of plant identification, a little bit of nostalgia. The post is called Notes on Gardening, Part 463. It's this Callisia fragrans basket plant.
Hmm.
And the author, Ang, found a plant, and it just like brought back all these memories from their childhood. But they're not really sure what the plant is, even with an AI chatbot telling him it's a basket plant.
Oh, wow. The mysteries of plants. It sounds like this is one of those situations where we need both the technology and the old-fashioned ways of looking at things.
Yeah, exactly. And it's kind of funny how one little plant can just like bring back all these memories. Ang even like describes it as like a yearning to reconnect with the past through this plant. And I think a lot of us can relate to that.
Absolutely. Plants have this amazing ability to bring back emotions, bring back memories, take us back to certain places. It's almost like they're holding on to little pieces of our past in their leaves and stems.
Now, Ang mentions that they tried using an AI chatbot to figure out what this plant is. It seems like everything these days is getting some kind of technology upgrade, even gardening. But how much can we rely on these AI tools? I mean, could they ever replace a good gardener with all their experience?
That is the question on a lot of botanists and gardeners' minds right now. I mean, these AI identifiers are good for like a really quick first look at something, but you can't completely rely on them. They work with these algorithms that look at pictures and compare them to these huge databases of plant photos. It is amazing technology, but it's got its downsides.
So it's like using Google Translate. It's good for getting the basic idea, but not always perfect.
Exactly. Like the lighting can be off in the picture, or it could be blurry, or the plant could be at a weird stage of growth. All that stuff can confuse the AI. And that's when you really need a person to look at it. People can see the little details, the texture, the way it's growing, even really faint smells that a computer might miss.
That makes a lot of sense. So what about this plant Ang found? Did they give any clues about what it looks like in the blog post?
Well, that's where it gets tricky. Aang didn't really go into that much detail, unfortunately. But they did say the AI suggested basket plant, which made them think it could be Callisia fragrans.
Oh, Callisia fragrance. Before we go too far down that path, can you give us a quick rundown of what that is? What's the connection between that and the name basket plant?
Sure. Callisia fragrans is part of the Camelinaceae family, which is also known as the spiderwort family. But it's not like the spiderworts you see with the super bright flowers, those really flashy ones. Callisia fragrans is a bit more subtle. It's got these long leaves shaped like lances, and the underside is this really pretty purplish color. And as it grows, it makes these clusters of leaves that kind of cascade down, and that's why people call it basket plant.
So the name actually describes the way it grows. I like that. You said it's part of the spiderwort family. Is it actually related to the spiderworts I might see in my garden?
Believe it or not, yes. They might look really different, but they share some important botanical stuff. Like both of them make these tiny little plantlets at the end of their stems, which is something you see in a lot of plants in the Camelinaceae family.
Plantlets, I'm not familiar with that word.
Oh, yeah. Plantlets are basically like mini versions of the plant. They grow along the stem, and it's a way for the plant to reproduce without needing seeds, so it's basically cloning itself. And with Callisia fragrans, those plantlets can grow roots wherever they touch the ground, which is why it ends up looking so full and bushy, hence the whole basket plant name.
Wow, that is really interesting. So these plantlets are like baby Callisia fragrans just waiting to pop out and grow into new plants. That's cool. No wonder it gets so bushy.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm starting to understand what Callisia fragrans is. But how do we know if that's what Ang's plant is? Do we even have enough information to say it's a match?
Well, that's the big question, right? I mean, the AI saying basket plant is interesting, but we really need more to go on to say for sure. Remember, those AIs can get tricked, even if they are pretty fancy.
Yeah, right. It's like trying to solve a mystery with just a couple of clues. We need more to work with. Did Ang say anything about like how big the plant is or what the leaves feel like, maybe even if it had a smell?
Unfortunately, not really, but they did mention that the plant felt familiar to them, so maybe it's a pretty common type of plant. And Callisia fragrans would fit that. It's been a popular houseplant for ages. People pass it down through families and stuff.
So that feeling of nostalgia that Ang talked about could actually be another clue.
Hmm.
It's like how popular the plant is tells us something too. But even if it's a common plant, how can we be sure it's Callisia fragrans without knowing more about what it looks like?
You're right to be careful. Identifying plants takes a lot of looking and double checking. One thing that could help is if it had flowers. Callisia fragrans has these tiny little flowers that grow in bunches, and they smell really nice. They're not super showy or anything, but they have this sweet smell, kind of like vanilla.
Ooh, that's interesting. If Aang's plant had those flowers, it would definitely make it seem more likely to be Callisia fragrans. Did they mention any flowers in the blog post?
Nope, no flowers mentioned, unfortunately. But even without that, we can still look closer at Callisia fragrans and see if it matches what we know about Aang's plant. One really cool thing about Callisia fragrans is that it's been used in traditional medicine for a long time.
Really? I had no idea.
Yeah, in some cultures, people have been using it for generations to help with different aches and pains. They mostly use the leaves. They think it has stuff in them that can fight inflammation and bacteria.
Wow, so it's not just pretty, it might actually have healing powers. What kind of stuff are we talking about? And is there any science to back up these traditional uses?
That's where it gets really interesting. Research has shown that Callisia fragrans contains these things called flavonoids. They're compounds that are known for their antioxidant and anti-inflammatory properties. One specific flavonoid, quercetin, has been studied for its benefits in reducing inflammation and even boosting the immune system.
Quercetin. I think I've heard of that before. Isn't that in other plants and foods too?
You got it. Quercetin is found in all sorts of fruits, vegetables, and herbs. It's one of those super powerful compounds that nature seems to have put everywhere. We still need more research to fully understand what it can do, but the early results are really promising.
Okay, now I'm impressed. Callisia fragrans sounds like a pretty amazing plan.
Yeah.
But let's not get ahead of ourselves. We still haven't confirmed if it's the same as Aang's plant.
You're right, we gotta stay focused. Identifying plants can be tough, even with all the knowledge and tech we have these days. Sometimes the mystery just stays unsolved, which can be annoying, but it's also kind of what makes botany so cool.
I get that. It's like those true crime podcasts where they never solve the case.
Yeah.
You want answers, but it keeps you thinking about it. Speaking of interesting things, I've heard people say that Callisia fragrans can clean the air. Is that true?
Ah, yeah, the air purifying plant thing. It's a popular idea, but people often get it wrong. So some plants, like Callisia fragrans, have been shown to absorb certain volatile organic compounds, VOCs, from the air in laboratory settings. But whether they actually do much in a normal home is not really clear.
So it's not some miracle air purifier like some people say it is.
Yeah,
But it's still nice to know that it might help make the air inside a bit healthier, even if it's just a little bit.
for sure, every little bit counts right. But let's get back to the main thing, helping Aang figure out what this mystery plant is.
Right. We've talked about a lot of cool stuff about Callisia fragrans, how it grows, how it's related to spiderworts, those plantlet things, its maybe medicinal properties, even the air purifier thing. But do we have enough to say for sure that's what Aang's plant is?
Honestly, I don't think so. We're missing some key pieces of information. Without more details about how the plant looks, especially the leaves and flowers and any other unique things about it, we just can't say for sure.
So it's like we've followed all these different paths and gathered all this info, but the mystery is still unsolved. What would you recommend Aang do to finally figure out what this plant is? Should they talk to a plant expert or send a sample to a lab or something?
I mean, those are definitely options, but they might be a bit much for this. Sometimes the easiest way is the best way.
Yeah.
Like maybe Aang could take some really good pictures of the plant, make sure there's plenty of light and get all the important stuff in the photo, the leaves, the stems, how it's growing, all that. And if there are any flowers or fruits, those are super helpful. Then they can compare those pictures to websites that are good at plant identification, like plant databases or botanical websites.
Yeah, that's a good idea. And if they're still stuck, there are all those online groups full of plant people. Aang could post the pictures there and get help from all sorts of experienced gardeners and botanists.
Exactly. It's like crowdsourcing for plants.
I like that. And, even if Aang never finds out for sure what the plant is, they learned a lot along the way. We've talked about the good and bad of those AI plant identifier things. We dug into all the interesting stuff about Callisia fragrans. And we even talked about how hard plant identification can be.
For sure. And I think the biggest lesson is that being curious and paying attention is so important for anyone who loves plants. Aang's story reminds us that even with all the technology we have, there's still something special about figuring things out for yourself.
I love that. So just to recap, we started with Aang's blog post about this mystery plant that made them think about their childhood. Then we talked about AI and how it can help and hurt when you're trying to figure out what a plant is.
Yeah.
And finally, we spent some time talking about Callisia fragrans, the basket plant, and whether it could be a match for Aang's plant, while also pointing out all its cool features and possible benefits. It's been a fun journey through the world of plants.
It really has. As we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a question. Think about your childhood. Is there a plant that you remember really well? Was it a rose bush in your grandma's garden that smelled amazing? Or a huge oak tree you used to climb? Or even just a geranium in a pot on your windowsill? Take a minute to think about those plants and how they shaped how you see the natural world.
That's a great question. And hey, maybe Aang will hear this and finally figure out what their mystery plant is. But even if the mystery stays unsolved, I hope this got all of us thinking about the plants in our lives in new ways. Until next time, everyone, happy gardening.